Magandang gabi sa ating lahat. We're now going to tackle or we're going to discuss the Module 7 in NSTP 1, volunteering. Welcome to Module 7 of NSTP 1. In this module, we will be discussing the very basic and lay language definition of volunteering and its principle. The Universal Declaration of Volunteering, as stated by Volunteering International Association for Volunteer Effort, the various types of volunteers in the organization, and lastly, the various aspects of virtual volunteering. At the end of this module, you will be able to, number one, explain the definition and the characteristic of volunteering. Number two is recognize the essence of volunteering in the midst of globalization and continuous change. Number three is analyzes the various types of volunteer and situate her or himself in one of the type of volunteer. Number four is understand the concept of virtual volunteering. Number five is discover the appropriate venue for her or him in virtual volunteering. Definition and principles of volunteering. Number one, here is the definition. Definition of volunteering is the commitment of time and energy for the benefit of the society and the community. The environment of individuals outside one's immediate family. It is undertaken freely and by choice without concern for financial gain. Principles of volunteering. Number one, volunteering benefits the community and the volunteer. Number two is volunteer work is unpaid. Number three is volunteering is always a matter of choice. Number four is volunteering is a legitimate way in which citizens can participate in the activities of their community. Number five is volunteering is a vehicle for individual or groups to address human environment and to address human environment again or groups address human environmental and social needs. Volunteering is an activity performed in the not-for-profit sector only. Volunteering is not a substitute for paid work. Volunteers do not replace paid workers nor constitute a threat to job security or paid workers. Volunteering respects the rights, dignity, and culture of others. The Universal Declaration of Volunteering. Volunteering is a fundamental building block of civil society. It brings to life the noblest aspiration of humankind. The pursuit of peace, freedom, opportunity, safety, and justice for all people. In this era of globalization and continuous change, the world is becoming smaller, more interdependent, and more complex. Volunteering, either through individual or group action, is a way in which, number one, human values of community, caring, and serving can be sustained and strengthened. Number two, individuals can exercise their rights and responsibility as members of communities while learning and growing throughout their lives, realizing their full human potential. And number three, connection can be made across differences that push us apart so that we can live together in healthy, sustainable communities, working together to provide innovative solutions to our shared challenges and to shape our collective destinies. At the dawn of new millennium, volunteering is an essential element of all societies. It turns into practical, effective action. It turns into practical, effective action the Declaration of the United Nations that we, the peoples, have the power to change the world. This declaration supports the right of every woman, man, and child to associate freely and to volunteer regardless of their cultural and ethnic origin, religion, age, gender, and physical, social, or economic condition. All people in the world should have the right to freely offer their time, talent, and energy to others and to their communities through individual and collective action without expectation of financial reward. We seek the development of volunteering that elicit the involvement of the entire community in identifying and addressing its problem, encourages and enables youth to make leadership through service a continuing part of their lives, provides a voice for those who cannot speak for themselves, enables others to participate as volunteers, complements but does not complements but does not substitute for responsible action by other sectors and the effort of paid workers, enables people to acquire new knowledge and skills and to fully develop their personal potential, self-reliance, and creativity, promotes family, community, and national and global solidarity. We believe that volunteers and the organizations and communities that they serve a shared responsibility to create environments in which volunteers have meaningful work that helps to achieve agreed upon results. Define the criteria for volunteer participation, including the conditions under which the organizations and the volunteer may end their commitment and develop policies to guide volunteer activity. Provide appropriate protections against risk for volunteers and those they serve. Provide volunteers with appropriate training, regular evaluation, and recognition. Ensure access for all by removing physical, economic, and cultural barriers for their participation. Taking into account Taking into account basic human rights as expressed in the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, the principles of volunteering and the responsibilities of volunteers and the organization in which they are involved, we call on all volunteers to proclaim their belief in volunteer action as a creative and mediating force that builds healthy, sustainable communities that respect the dignity of all people, empower people to exercise their rights as human beings and thus improve their lives, help solve social, cultural, economic, and environmental problems, and build more humane and builds a more humane and just society through worldwide cooperation. The leaders of all sectors to join together to create strong, visible, and effective local national volunteer centers as the primary leadership organizations volunteering. Government to ensure the rights of all people to volunteer, to remove any legal barriers to participation, to engage volunteer in its work, and to provide resources to NGOs to promote and support the effective mobilization and management of volunteers. Business to encourage and facilitate the involvement of its workers in the community as volunteers and to commit human and financial resources to develop the infrastructure needed to support volunteering. The media to tell the stories of the volunteers and to provide information that encourages and assists people to volunteer. Education to encourage and assist people of all ages to volunteer, creating opportunities for them to reflect on and learn from their service. Religion to affirm volunteering as an appropriate response to the spiritual call of all people to serve. NGOs to create organizational environment that are friendly to volunteers and to commit the human and financial resources that are required to effectively engage volunteers. The United Nations too declare this to be the decade of volunteers and civil society in recognition of the need to strengthen the institution of free societies and recognize the red V as the universal symbol for volunteering. International Association for Volunteer Effort, or IAVE, challenges volunteers and leaders of all sectors throughout the world to unite as partners to promote and support effective volunteering, accessible to all as a symbol of solidarity among all people and nations. IAVE invites the global volunteer community to study, discuss, endorse, and bring into this Universal Declaration on Volunteering International Association for Volunteer Effort 2001. Types of volunteers. Number one is the risk taker. Characteristic. The person who makes a group commitment for a work effort and deliverable without check-in buys the item you have long needed on credit. Again, the risk taker. What is the characteristic of the risk taker? The person who makes a group commitment for a work effort and deliverable without checking in buys the item you have long needed on credit. Number two characteristic is accept the challenge to do just about anything anywhere without fear and without worry and often without a whole lot of thought. Number three characteristic, these are the individuals who often follow the more visible and externally issue-laden challenges. This not mean that the work they do for organization is more difficult. It is just different than the work of those who manage operations day in and day out. It's just different than the work of those who manage operations day in and day out. We would argue, though, that the risk taker are the volunteers who do find themselves in charge at the end of the day. They become the most visible and get the most recognition, often have broader experiences. And if they succeed in the challenges they take on, they often get the volunteer promotion and even more responsibility in thus risk-taking freedom. This can be good at this and this can be good and this can be risky. Risk taker do all fail at some point, and that is part of the excitement to them in being in their position. Being personalities allow them to understand how to get up and move ahead after failures. This may be the primary difference between the risk takers and risk averse. The pain associated with the loss is so much greater than the gain from the win that many folks prefer the safer path. The following types of individuals might be considered more risk aggressive than others. Number one is the entrepreneur. An entrepreneur often starts in a vacuum, typically seeing the world as a problem and begins process of solving the problems. Steve Jobs built products that then let people adapt. For example, he began producing USB 2.0 chargeable devices when approximately 70% of the world still had USB 1.0 ports in their computers. In contrast, Bill Gates' empire builds product where there already a commodity demand. His expertise is that he routinely corners the market, which makes for business, which makes for great business. In an organization, the entrepreneur might not seem like a team player. She or he is always full of ideas that at first seem impractical. Perhaps she or he is an idealist, or maybe she or he is not very happy and spends time trying to solve problems for which no one has time or to which no one pays attention. It is suggested that if there is a true entrepreneur in your group, present the current problem and ask her or him to prepare a plan to fix it and then get out of the way. Some entrepreneurs simply see the solution and will need help from others to plan and implement it. If the entrepreneur in your office turns out to be somewhat organized, then you may have found a resource who will continue to identify solution. So, somewhat organized, then you may have found a resource who will continue to identify solutions for your multiple areas. Sorry. Do we have resources to waste on undertaking processes and projects that are broken? Experiment a little bit. Ask your entrepreneurial volunteer to draw several solutions. Give her or him the opportunity to present her ideas to your group. Sometimes an entrepreneur's vision will need to be translated into definable tasks that everyone can understand. Entrepreneurs can be difficult to work with at Entrepreneurs can be difficult to work with at times as they are often idealistic and can get cranky when no one listens to their solutions. However, they can also be a joy and have much to offer your organization. Are you an entrepreneur? Number two is the builder. Builder may be confused with entrepreneurs. Although they may have many of the same qualities, they are not the same. Entrepreneurs start in a vacuum and often do not care about cost or practicality. Builders do. Builders know that an action add value. Builders can take a plan or idea and turn it into action and a definable set of deliverables. They can see the end of envision. They can see the end and envision the objective. They can see the path that is necessary to progress from zero action to charting a course to a working service or product. Builders can help your group jumpstart your task, organize events, and plan for the future. They have the ability to adapt and change course at a moment's notice. They can motivate others and show them the path to completion. The builders is a change agent the builder is a change agent who must like people, have considerable energy, and understand that no mean different and no necessarily no. Builders know how to move work forward when faced with difficult decision point or roadblock. They either pitch another alternative solution or at times plow right on through. Letter C, or the third kind of volunteering is the volunteering types is a doctor. Doctors come into an organization often from the outside and get a project, a group, or even the entire facility back on track again. Simply stated that they are fixers. Doctors typically work with mature and troubled organizations or projects. And while they need to be somewhat visionary, it is even more important that they be able to repair and resurrect. These individuals are puzzled. These, these individuals, like puzzles, they enjoy helping folks get out of trouble. And they like to facilitate others' success and get folks and teams organized. Doctor volunteers sometimes have uh, s- doctor volunteer doctor volunteers sometimes have to move things backwards before they can move them forward again. Often, they also must regain folks' trust before they can begin to take action. This can prove rewarding. Doctors can make a significant difference, especially when everyone knows that the new plan is for long term success. You may have a doctor in your organizations already. We rarely want the diagnosis from doctors make, but doctors are valuable. We all need them, whether for routine, chronic, or urgent care. The fourth type of volunteer is the closer. This is the type 1. Killing or shutting down tasks is hard to do. As humans, we do not like to kill things, but at times we must. We must kill the project that turned into unsalvageable disaster. Death is a part of life, and sometimes your organizations will need to let some tasks die. Shutting them down in tactful and delicate manner is an art form. Ending some tasks may result in minor consequences for your group or for the people you serve. Ending other tasks may result in major consequences for them. Closers shut things down delicately. Again, closers shut things down delicately, inducting a minimum inducting a minimum of heartaches for all of those involved. They help others transition into new roles and new tasks. They extract everything that is useful from the dead project and then shift those resources to a new front. Managers should watch out for closers. They can often soften the very difficult decision we have to make. The fifth kind of volunteer is the closer, type 2. The type 2 closer, who also may be called the finisher, has a special talent as well. On small on smaller tasks, this role often falls to the same persons who started the job. Everyone must ultimately take a task or whole project from start to finish. However, many can have trouble finishing as this means being judged, as this means being judged. And sometimes for all and sometimes for some, this is difficult. So people never seem to bring their projects to completion. A good type 2 finisher pays extreme attention to detail but is balanced in their understanding. They know that B plus is a fine grade and adopts the attitude that once a task is operational, time can be spent moving it up to A. 100 things may need to be examined before task is finished. This closer, really a finisher, pays extreme attention to details, knows how and when to go live, and does not fear the first day of operation. They thrive in it. The pure project manager. Pure project managers might also be called mercenaries. Although the term does not sit well with many, without passion for the cause of deliverable, without 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 passion for the cause or the deliverable, they instead without passion for the cause or the deliverable, they instead, if they are good, have immense passion for the people. The pure manager sometimes is maligned, but the truth is that the world is full of dedicated and compassionate mercenaries. These are managers who can oversee any jobs, anywhere across cultural lines and geographic boundaries. These are often the most seasoned and confident leaders. They surround themselves with content experts, have an extreme ability to understand processes and systems, and have a passion for helping others to succeed. They may not share others' passion for the product or service, but they acknowledge that passion in others. Their joy and purpose are in seeing others succeed. As a result, pure managers often have extensive experience having moved from unit to unit to help build and rebuild Others areas. Their mantra is any project, anywhere, anytime. Many of these people thrive on risk. They can add value in almost any organization. The risk averse. Say what you may about the risk averse. Okay, the risk averse. Say what you may about the risk averse, but they are steady and they are indispensable. Without their contributions, risk takers would have nothing to do. The risk averse will keep knocking on doors until their tasks are complete. They can move mountains with their persistence and they can provide the foundation of your organization. The risk averse do not necessarily like to get beat up, yet they do work harder and perhaps have a dig a little deeper to maintain the stamina needed to complete your organization's task and to volunteer in or manage the daily operations. Attention to the same detail over and over is a key to their success. They always show up to help and best stay longer than other volunteers. They are consistent, patient, often very caring of others and unbending. They just never give up. We need them, and we need to give them far more respect than the world often does. You need to take care of these people inside of your organization for they are one of your most valuable assets. Letter A, the maintenance volunteer. These volunteers show up and complete their task without so much of a hiccup. They keep things running smoothly and efficiently. They can sometimes be overlooked, but it is very important to acknowledge their contribution continuously. Without them, the more visible volunteers would have no resources with which to work. Maintenance is difficult and we need to be sure to thank the people the, who accomplish the mundane. Not only are these volunteers are overlooked, but their tasks are also overlooked. Consequently, they do not get the face time nor resources they need to continue to succeed. When each person understands everyone else's roles, the role of the task within your organization, your tasks will become easier and your organization stronger. B. The designer, planner, and scheduler. The designer, planner, and scheduler have visioning capabilities similar to those of the entrepreneur and the builder. However, they often think and plan but not necessarily lead, manage, and have the chats with folks to get very same work accomplished. In a small organization, the entrepreneur or builder may also be one and the same with these designers and planners. In larger organizations, these individuals fulfill a valuable role as they create the documentation, estimate costs, and use the skills and tools necessary to schedule activities and use the skill and tools necessary to schedule activities. In their pure form, designers, schedulers, and planners typically are introverts who sit in a back room and make elaborate plans for the builder to implement. Smaller organizations often do not have the luxury of having such person. Understand also that this type of individual should not work alone. You, you can put them in the back room, but you cannot leave them there permanently. They need access to the volunteers who actually do the work and they need to get out on location so they can develop plans and schedules that are feasible and practical as possible. So this is from Volunteering 2014. Virtual volunteering. What is virtual volunteering? The Virtual Volunteering Guidebook 2000, this is from the Virtual Volunteering. So, what is the virtual volunteering? Virtual volunteering refers to the volunteer task completed. in whole, in whole or in part via the internet and home in a home or work computer. It is also known as online volunteering, cyber service, telementoring, teletutoring, and various other names. The concept is meant as a substitute for traditional person or for the traditional in-person volunteering. In fact, one of the most exciting things about this innovative use of technology is that it is adding both to the quantity of service contributed and, and to attracting people who have not necessarily volunteered before. Virtual volunteering offers greater access to community resources and provides more ways to people to support community groups, non-profit agencies, schools, and other organizations. For some people, service online will be a preferred avenue of volunteering, but for most, it will be an additional way of contributing time and talent. Most organizations which involve online volunteers do so in addition to welcoming on-site volunteers. Also, only a few online volunteers work solely via the internet. Often a combination of on-site and online tasks for volunteers works for volunteers works best for everyone involved. So this is, for example, for the volunteers, staffs, and for clients. For instance, one volunteer may interact with clients online, but meet on site with a staff member regularly. Another, another may talk with a client via email in addition to regular face-to-face visits. I'm sorry. Why involve online volunteers? So why involve online volunteers? Online volunteers, just as those who come on site, extend the resources of an organization. The additional help augments staff resources and allow organization to reach more clients. There are many good reasons to involve volunteers via online technologies as well as to use the internet for recruitment or on-site volunteers. Potential volunteers not reached by a traditional offline means may be reached online. There are people who don't read the newspaper column on volunteer opportunities or who don't read the bulletins for the local volunteer center, but who would indeed love to volunteer and easily reach online via World Wide Web and appropriate internet discussion groups. Number three is potential who prefer not to volunteer on site may be willing to do so via their home or work computers. Number four is setting out expectation online allow prospective volunteers to self-screen their interest before contacting an agency. Number six is some people prefer to communicate via online means. Dashing off an email or filing out an online sign-up sheet is more convenient and for some people preferable to calling an organization. Number seven, virtual volunteering programs allow for the participation of people who might find on-site volunteering difficult or impossible because of a disability, mobility issue, home obligation, or work schedule. This in turn allows agencies to benefit from the additional talent and resources for more volunteers. Number 8, people in their 20s and 30s are more prone to use the resources of the internet than other age group and like the novelty and convenience of finding and signing up for either on-site or virtual volunteering via this technology. These younger volunteers can turn into long-time supporters, including becoming financial donors. Online volunteers are environmentally friendly. No car, no car exhaust, less paper waste, less paper waste, etc. So, online volunteer are environmentally friendly, no car exhaust, less paper waste, etc. Siyempre, hindi rin kami mamamasahe, walang transpo, this reimbursement, di ba? Patay tayo. What can someone do as an online volunteer? The Virtual Volunteering Project has defined two categories of online volunteering. Again, what can someone do as an online volunteer? The Virtual Volunteering Project has defined two categories of online volunteering. Number 1, technical assistance. Technical assistance assignment utilize the expertise of a volunteer to support paid staff or other volunteers at an agency. And usually involve accomplishing a project of reaching an objective. The results are readily visible, a final product, a report, etc. Email is the main form of communication as the work progresses. Here are just the few examples of what a volunteer can do to provide virtual technical assistance. Number 1 is conduct online research. Find information to use in an agency's upcoming grant proposal or newsletter. Upcoming grant proposal or newsletter. Gather information on a particular government program or legislation that affects an agency's clients. Gather website addresses of similarly focused organization, etc. Number 2 is provide professional consulting expertise. Answer an agency's questions regarding human resource, accounting, management, or legal issues. Write a speech, develop a strategic plan for a particular department, etc. Number 3 is conduct online outreach and advocacies. Post information to appropriate news group and electronic lists. Prepare legislative alerts to be sent via email, etc. Design an agency's newsletter or brochure or copy, edit an agency's publication or proposal. Design a logo for an agency or program. Translate a document into another language. Prepare information for an agency's World Wide Web. Make sure a website is accessible for people using assistive technologies. Register an agency's web, homepage, and other appropriate pages. Again, register an agency's web homepage and other appropriate pages with online search engines. Register an agency's web homepage and other appropriate page with online search engines, directories, and what's new site. Design a database. This is so old. Do daily searches for news articles relating to an organization or to a particular topic. Provide an online orientation to all volunteers with internet access, whether or not they are on-site or online volunteers. Or survey volunteers via email about their experiences with an agency or program. Direct client contact. Most organizations readily see the potential of involving volunteers in doing virtual technical assistance. A much more complex subject is how to create electronic links between a volunteer and a client or other recipient of service. But here are some ideas for what an online volunteer could do for a client. Electronically visit with someone who is homebound in a hospital or rest home. This can be done in addition to on-site, in-person visits. Number 2 is provide online mentoring and instruction via email or private internet. Helping students with homework questions, helping an adult learn a skill or find job, or help prison inmates with studies of programs. Number 3 is help with language instructions, for instance, help people learning English. Number 4 is staff an email or chat room answer support line, just like a telephone answer support line, where people write in question and trained volunteers answer them. Or be part of an online support group where members provide advice to each other via chat room, electronic discussion list, or news group. Number 5 is supervise or moderate an agency-sponsored chat room, list, serve, or list and a news group. Number 6 is provide advance welcoming of people about to enter the hospital, go to summer camp, etc. from volunteers via email or special web page or intranet, and post-service follow-up to the same group via email or the web. Work with other volunteers and or clients to create a project such as writing about the news of their neighborhood, school, special interest group, etc. Or gathering historical information relating a particular time or region to post on website or use in printed material. Create distance learning opportunities such as training volunteers in a subject via internet. And lastly, supervise any of the above activities via the internet and provide guidance or ask for staff guidance as appropriate. So we have this glossary. Number one is hiccup, a quick involuntary inhalation that follows a spasm of diaphragm and is suddenly checked by closure of the glottis, producing a short, relatively sharp sound. So that is hiccup. Number two is mundane. Mundane, the meaning of mundane is lacking interest or excitement, or meaning to say it is dull. We also have the supplementary and reference and supplementary materials, the volunteering, page 25 to 32, first edition, 2014 Berger, KE, and Snyder, MB. Sunshine Valley Communication, ISBN 978-8740307092. The Virtual Volunteering Guidebook, page 1 to 4, Ellis S.J. and Cravens J. 2000. Impact Online Incorporated, www.impactonline.org. This another one is from the Volunteer Center 2016, www.volunteerfingal.ie. Where is IE? So there's another three left is the Volunteering International Association for Volunteer Effort, www.iave.org. The hiccup is searched from myway.com and the mundane is from oxforddictionaries.com. So that's all for volunteering topic. Meron pa tayong kasunod mamaya. And maraming salamat po sa pagsubaybay.